Hello everybody, I am your weight loss expert, Coach Maddie, and today I'm coming at you with some tips and tricks to help speed up your results. Now today, I would like to talk about the scale. Now I've had a crazy relationship with the scale over pretty much my whole life. For the majority of my life, the scale invoked an emotional reaction out of me. Either it made me really, really happy and I had an awesome day, or it completely ruined my mood and I had a horrible day. And either way, it just had way too much power over me and how I acted, right? Because if I didn't like the number on the scale and I was sad, then I would say, screw it, what's the point? And I would overindulge, or I'd skip a workout. Or if it was good, I'd say, well, let's celebrate, reward myself, I worked hard, and then I'd have a cheat anyway. So it was this bad cycle, year after year after year, stepping on the scale again and again and again, with mostly just pure disappointment and at one point disgust in myself and huge overwhelm, not knowing where the hell to start or what the hell this scale is. Like, how do I have control over this number? Because I felt like I never had control. Even when it did go down, I didn't even understand why it went down. So I still felt helpless. So me and the scale, we are best friends now, but it has not always been that way. If you are struggling with the scale, here are some tips and tricks for you. So first things first, if you want to make sure that when you are weighing yourself, you are weighing yourself with the right conditions, okay? So what that means is normally you want to be naked because clothes can definitely weigh something, right? They'll show up on the scale with a few ounces. So naked at the same time every day, okay? So if you wake up at 8 a.m., you do it at 8 a.m. It's got to be in the same place, okay, on the same scale. So you don't want to be jumping on new scales every week, because from scale to scale, it can fluctuate and that can be really discouraging. And you always want to make sure the scale is in the exact same place. Don't put it away, pull it out, put it away, pull it out. It stays on one spot on the floor somewhere where it's not going to be kicked. Someone's not going to move it. And that's where it lives, okay? Because it can be very easily uncalibrated. So those are kind of the basics. Of course, you want to try to go to the bathroom, number one, and number two, before you step on the scale. That'll be the most accurate. And I personally recommend daily weigh-ins, okay? Every morning you just check your weight, not because you're expecting drastic change every day, but because if you want change, you have to look at the data, right? If you want to start to save money, or you want to pay off your credit card bill, you don't avoid looking at your bank accounts, right? The reason we've been avoiding the scale or told not to do it and not to look at it too often is because we either obsess or we don't like what we see. But the more we can face it, the less power it holds over us, and the more, for lack of a better term, numb we get to the scale, right? And it's just a piece of data that we read, and then we adjust our actions accordingly. So the scale, right? So now we've figured out kind of how to make sure that they're the most accurate instead of having a ton of outside variables affecting the weight every day. Now, the next thing to recognize is that week to week is going to be the most accurate in terms of the number. Okay, so Sunday to Sunday is usually what I go by, and that'll tell you how much progress you've made in a week. Okay, day by day, yes, you can lose weight every single day, like the scale might drop, but one day it might stay the same. One day you might have a huge drop, a little drop, a big gain. There's tons of things as a woman that can cause the scale to fluctuate. Poor sleep, menstrual cycle, too much salt, we ate later than usual, etc. There's countless things that could make our weight change from day to day that have nothing to do with the way that we ate or how much we were active. So don't freak out day to day. Look at week to week progress. That will give you the right amount of data to make a decision of how the next week should go. What should I focus on the next week? Okay? Now, the most important thing to do when stepping on the scale is to prep yourself beforehand. This may sound silly, but you must have a conversation with yourself before stepping on the scale. You have to. Otherwise, you have no idea what's about to happen. You have not prepared yourself, and you just don't know how you're going to act. And then if we don't have control over our emotions, then guess what? Our emotions control us. They're going to dictate what we do, how we act, the decisions that we make, and then that's when we would normally go downhill after we step on the scale. So I like to set my intentions, right? So I like to say, before I step on the scale, Did I do everything I was supposed to? Did I do everything on my checklist of things to follow that would equal a good, healthy day for me the day before? Yes? Okay. So I did everything that I could. Now, did I not do anything that I could? Did I skip some things? Did I slip up a little bit? Okay. So logically, then I can expect the number to not be great, right? So then I can mentally prepare myself, right? Logically, based on my performance, my unbiased opinion on my performance, objective view of my performance, not how I wish I did. Yeah, I did good. I feel good. No. Did I do X, Y, and Z like I said I would? I did X, Y. I didn't do Z. Okay. So then there's some discrepancy. So you can talk yourself through the different scenarios of what the scale is going to show based on how you've practically behaved and performed over the days. And normally you want to focus on just the day before and do this every time you step on the scale. So logically, how have I performed? Now you know. So now you can better predict the outcome on the scale. And then once you've better predicted the outcome on the scale before we've even stepped on, then you can say, okay, what's going to happen if X happens? And what's going to happen if Y happens? So what happens if I lost weight? What happens if I didn't lose weight? What happens if I gained weight? Go through all three scenarios in your head. Well, if you gain weight on the scale, but you did everything you were supposed to yesterday, you don't have to freak out. It's just a one-off. The next day will even out. If the weight went up and you didn't do everything you were supposed to, guess what you have to do today? Just be 1% better. And so on and so forth. There are logical reasons as to why the number is saying what it is saying. Do we always know those reasons? No. But all you have control over is, did I put in the work? And what is my perspective on the result that I just saw on that number? Adjust the perspective. And then that way you are super prepared. You've kind of been like a psychic. You've played all angles. You know all the different paths this can take. You've played out your reaction for each one, your solution for each one, and then the day continues. So basically, you've already made up a plan. You've already made up a plan for what you're going to do that day, regardless of what the scale says. So that way, you don't just jump on the scale blind and then make up a plan after you've had this emotional reaction. Because nothing ever really good comes from making decisions in our emotions, right? So if you want to get power back over the scale, you've got to understand the numbers. Where are they coming from? Learn your body. Don't shy away from the scale, right? There's a difference between facing it and facing it often versus being obsessed, right? You definitely have to talk yourself through that. I would not recommend weighing yourself more than once per day. That's when I would say you're borderlining a little bit of obsessive, because it doesn't matter what it says during the day. In the morning, you'll be the most accurate on an empty stomach, empty bowels, no clothes on, same place, same scale. That'll be the most accurate, right? And then during the day, you're stressed, you might have had salt, you're full of food, maybe you've got a poop coming. That's all going to interfere with the number. So don't do it. You can weigh 10 pounds heavier at nighttime than you did in the morning. Just don't put yourself through that stress. But you have to face the data. Face the data, get control over the data, play out all scenarios in your head based on how you've performed, and then make the decision on how you're going to act afterward based on the different possible outcomes. And that way you have the most control, you're the most level-headed, and you know what you need to do. You're never left in the dark, you're never overwhelmed, you never want to cry after the scale because it just starts to make sense. When the number doesn't make sense, when we feel like we have no control over it and we're not understanding it, that is when it messes with us mentally the most. Don't let that happen ever again. Now, you're going to fight with the scale. You're going to have battles internally. But if you follow the process that I've just outlined, then you will have faster control back. You may lose control momentarily. You may get emotional momentarily, but you'll be able to rein it in faster. And that's kind of the whole goal here. Be better, do better, think better. And if you do those things, you will get better results. Just a matter of time. But it starts with small changes today and not avoiding it, right? If you're avoiding it because you genuinely don't care, that's totally fine. But let's be honest, you do care. And that's probably why you've been avoiding it.